Ladies and gentlemen, every day you wake up with a choice, the choice to lie there in the comfort of your sheets, just another hour of rest, or the choice to get up, to step out of that bed, and to take control of your day. You know what you're capable of, you know that potential inside you, but there's a gap between who you are and who you're meant to be. And let me tell you, that gap will not close on its own. It's not going to fill itself up with wishes or dreams. That gap will only close if you get up, if you decide to make something happen. This is not about waiting for the right time, for the stars to align. You've got what you need right now to start moving, but you've got to make that choice. Life doesn't wait for you. It doesn't care about your excuses or your fears. Every morning that you decide to hit snooze, that's a morning lost. That's time you're not getting back. Time you could have used to build something, to create something that matters. You don't have to have it all figured out right now. You don't have to have the perfect plan, the perfect strategy, the perfect opportunity. You just have to get up. That's step one. Make the choice to take action, no matter how small, because action leads to momentum. Momentum leads to progress. Progress leads to results. Think about the dreams you've got, the things you want to achieve, the goals you've set. Every single one of those dreams requires action. Every one of them demands that you get up and do something. You want success? You want freedom? You want to be great at something? Well, let me tell you something, greatness doesn't come by accident. It doesn't show up on your doorstep because you wished for it. You've got to go after it. You've got to grind for it. And it starts with one thing, getting up. It's so easy to sit back, to say I'll start tomorrow or I'll wait for the right moment. But there is no perfect moment. Life doesn't wait for your timing. It waits for you to make your move. It waits for you to step into the arena, to stand tall, to take on the challenges, the setbacks, the failures, and to keep going. Because you're going to fail. That's the truth. If you haven't failed, you haven't tried hard enough. You haven't pushed yourself enough. And failure isn't the end. It's just a part of the journey. It's a lesson. You either win or you learn. There is no losing. The only way you fail is by quitting. So if you want to succeed, if you want to get to the other side of your fears, the first thing you need to do is get up. Getting up is not just about physically getting out of bed. It's about mentally waking up to your potential. It's about saying enough is enough. I'm not going to wait for things to happen for me. I'm going to make them happen. You see, your circumstances don't define you. Your surroundings don't dictate your future. You do. You're the one in control. You are the one who decides whether or not you get it done. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to hand you success on a silver platter. It's not coming in the mail. It's not arriving in an email. Success is earned, and it's earned every single day. Every time you make the choice to get up, you're sending a message to the world that you are not a victim. You are not someone who waits for handouts. You are someone who takes action, someone who believes in their ability to make things happen. And let me tell you, the world notices people who take action. Opportunities come to those who are prepared, to those who are willing to do the work. Luck doesn't exist. Hard work does. Dedication does. Consistency does. So don't tell me you're unlucky. Don't tell me it's not your time. It is your time. It's your moment. It's your opportunity to step up and step forward. But here's the thing. You've got to be real with yourself. It's easy to sit in a comfortable place and talk about your dreams, but when it's time to get to work, when it's time to hustle, that's when people start backing out. That's when the excuses kick in. I'm too tired, I don't feel like it, I'll do it later. If you want to accomplish anything, if you want to reach your goals, you've got to fight against that voice. That voice that tells you it's too hard. That voice that says you can't do it. You've got to fight that voice with action. Every time that voice comes up, you crush it with progress. Every time it says you're not good enough, you prove it wrong by doing the work. Every time it says you're not ready, you say, I'm getting ready right now. There are no shortcuts to success. There are no easy paths. There are no magic formulas. It's simple: get up, show up, and put in the work. That's the formula. It's not glamorous. It's not sexy. It's not what you see on Instagram. But it's what works. You don't need to be a genius. You don't need to be the best at everything. You just need to be consistent. You need to show up day in and day out, doing the work, doing the reps, pushing yourself when it feels uncomfortable. Because when it's uncomfortable, that's when growth happens. When you feel like quitting, that's when you're getting closer. You can't rely on motivation to get. The world tells you to stop, you tell the world not today. Every single one of you has the ability to do more than you think. But that potential is useless if you don't get up and do something with it. I don't care what your background is, what your situation is, or what your past looks like. I don't care if you've failed 100 times. If you're still breathing, you've got another shot. If you're still alive, you've got another chance. But that chance is not going to last forever. There is no time to waste. You can either waste your days away sitting back and waiting for the perfect moment, or you can start now. Start where you are with what you have and build from there. You don't need everything to be perfect. You don't need to know all the answers. You just need to get up and get it done. The world is full of dreamers. The world is full of people who talk about what they want, who talk about what they could do, but never take action. The world is full of people who say, I'm going to start tomorrow, but tomorrow never comes. You've got to be different. You've got to be the one who doesn't wait. You've got to be the one who takes action today. The one who says, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make my dreams a reality. It's time to stop talking. It's time to stop making excuses. It's time to stop pretending like tomorrow is promised, because it's not. The only moment you've got is right now. It's easy to make excuses. It's easy to justify why you can't do something. But let me tell you something, your excuses are keeping you stuck. Your excuses are the chains that are holding you back. You want to break free? Then get up. Get up and do something about it. It's not enough to want it. It's not enough to dream about it. You've got to put in the work. You've got to make sacrifices. You've got to put in the hours. You've got to get up when everyone else is sleeping, and you've got to keep going when everyone else is quitting. That's what it takes to succeed. It's not going to be easy. There will be times when you feel like you can't go any further. There will be times when you feel like giving up. But those are the moments that define you. Those are the moments that separate the winners from the losers. It's easy to win when everything is going your way. It's easy to keep going when everything is smooth sailing. But real strength is shown when things get tough. Real character is shown when the road gets hard. And that's when you need to dig deep and find that willpower inside you to keep pushing. You are capable of more than you know. You are capable of achieving things you haven't even imagined yet. But it's up to you. It's up to you to make that choice, to make that decision, to get up, to get out there, and to get it done. Because no one else is going to do it for you. If you want to change your life, if you want to reach your goals, if you want to become the person you were meant to be, then get up. Get up and get it done. Success, in any form, is not born from mere hopes and dreams. It is born from action. The world doesn't owe you anything, and it doesn't wait for you to be ready. It rewards those who take the initiative, those who decide to make something happen, not just wait for things to come to them. The concept of action is simple, yet incredibly powerful. It's what turns an idea into a reality, a plan into a tangible outcome. No matter how grand your ambitions are or how talented you are, without action, it will all remain just a dream. Dreams need fuel, and that fuel is the actions you take every day to move toward them. This principle applies to every aspect of life, whether in business, personal growth, relationships, or health. If you want to see results, you have to make the decision to get up, get moving, and stay committed. Think about it. Every successful person you admire didn't sit back waiting for things to magically fall into place. They didn't wait for someone to give them permission. They saw a goal and took action, sometimes imperfect, sometimes uncertain, but always moving forward. The journey towards success is not about getting everything right from the start. It's about making progress, even when you're unsure of every step ahead. The magic is in the doing. The magic is in consistently showing up and pushing through the challenges, the fears, and the obstacles that life throws your way. One of the biggest misconceptions that hold people back is the belief that success requires perfection. People think that they need to have the perfect plan, the right resources, or the perfect timing to begin. And so they wait. They wait for the right time. They wait until they have everything they need. They wait for some external validation. But waiting is the enemy of progress. Waiting doesn't lead to anything but stagnation. You don't have to wait for everything to align perfectly before you take action. Action is what brings clarity. When you start taking steps, even small ones, you begin to learn, adjust, and make informed decisions. The idea of perfection is just a barrier to prevent you from taking that first crucial step. Think about any time you've taken action on something, whether it's launching a business, taking a fitness challenge, or starting a creative project. The first step is always the hardest. It's always the most uncertain. But it's also the most important because it gets you moving, and once you're moving, it's easier to adjust your course. Without action, you'll never know if your idea will work, or if you'll succeed, or how far you can go. But with action, you create a path, even if it's one that you need to modify along the way. There's an incredible power in momentum, and momentum comes from action. When you take that first step, you create a ripple effect. Even if it's just a small action, it starts the process of change. You gain confidence, experience, and a sense of accomplishment. It's the little wins, the everyday actions that build upon each other, leading to greater results. But none of that happens unless you make the decision to act. Momentum doesn't wait for you to feel ready, it follows after you start moving. And when you're moving, you're gaining ground, building progress, and inching closer to your goals. Now, let's talk about consistency. It's easy to take action once in a while, but the real power of action is in its consistency. One big push may feel great, but it doesn't last. It's what you do every single day that will get you the results you're after. Whether you're working on your career, health, or personal growth, success requires a daily commitment to taking action. It's the habit of doing something, however small, each day that leads to mastery and eventual success. Action isn't a one-time event, it's a process. It's the continuous effort of showing up, putting in the work, and not allowing yourself to become complacent. For example, let's say you're trying to improve your fitness. You might go to the gym once or twice and feel great about it, but if you don't consistently show up, those results will be temporary. The real transformation happens when you commit to regular action, whether it's working out 5 days a week or consistently eating healthy. It's not the occasional big effort that leads to lasting change. It's the consistent, disciplined actions that build long-term success. This applies to every area of life. The actions you take today compound over time and create momentum that propels you forward. Another powerful aspect of action is its ability to overcome fear. Fear is one of the biggest barriers that prevent people from taking action. It's natural to feel scared when you're stepping into the unknown. Whether it's fear of failure, fear of rejection, or fear of the unknown, these fears can paralyze us. But the truth is that fear is part of the process. It's not a sign that you should stop, but rather a sign that you're doing something important. Every time you feel that fear and push through it, you grow stronger. You prove to yourself that you can handle discomfort, that you can handle uncertainty, and that you are capable of more than you think. The more you act, the more you learn to manage your fear and use it as fuel for your progress. Action diminishes fear by showing you that the worst-case scenario is rarely as bad as you imagined. It's also important to remember that action doesn't always mean taking giant leaps. Sometimes it's about the small, everyday efforts that build up over time. A lot of people think that to make a difference, they have to take bold, radical actions. But the truth is, success often comes from those small, seemingly insignificant actions that are taken consistently. It's about showing up every day, doing what needs to be done, even when it doesn't feel like it's making a huge difference. Over time, these small actions add up and create momentum. They move you closer to your goals, even if you can't see the results right away. Don't underestimate the power of incremental progress. Action also opens up opportunities. When you take action, you put yourself out there in the world, you make yourself visible, you make things happen. And this can open doors to opportunities you might not have seen before. When you're active and engaged in your goals, you attract new connections, ideas, and possibilities. Whether it's a new business partner, a new opportunity, or a new project, action creates pathways where there were none before. But if you're not acting, if you're not putting yourself out there, those opportunities will pass you by. The world doesn't just hand out chances to people who sit back and wait. It rewards those who take risks, who take initiative, and who go after what they want. You might be thinking, but what if I take action and it doesn't work out well? That's a valid concern, and the truth is, not everything will go perfectly. Not every action will lead to success right away. There will be setbacks. There will be mistakes. But that's part of the journey. Every failure is a lesson that teaches you what doesn't work. And that's just as important as knowing what does. When you take action, you're also learning and evolving. Failure is not something to fear, it's something to embrace because it gives you the tools to do better next time. Action doesn't guarantee success, but it does guarantee progress. It guarantees that you will get better, that you will learn, and that you will grow. In today's world, it's easy to get caught up in overthinking, to feel like you need to analyze every detail before you make a move. But the truth is, perfection doesn't exist. No amount of planning can replace the value of real-world experience. There will always be unknowns, and you can't predict every outcome. But action is your best chance to understand what works and what doesn't. Taking action is the way to test your ideas, to experiment, and to iterate. Without action, you're left in a vacuum of speculation. It's action that brings clarity, that turns theory into practice, and that reveals opportunities you might have missed if you stayed stagnant. If you want results in your life, if you want success, it all boils down to this: take action. Don't wait for things to be perfect. Don't wait for the right moment, and don't wait for someone else to give you permission. Your success is in your hands, and it starts with the actions you take today. Every decision, every step you make builds toward the future you want to create. So stop waiting, start acting, get up, get moving, and make it happen. Motivation is a powerful force. It's that spark that lights a fire inside you, pushes you to take action, and inspires you to go after what you want. When motivation is high, the world seems full of possibilities and everything feels within reach. But as many of us know all too well, motivation is fleeting. It can fade just as quickly as it appears, and when it's gone, it's easy to fall back into old habits, procrastination, or even giving up on your goals altogether. This is where discipline comes in. Discipline is the force that keeps you going when motivation has abandoned you. It's the ability to continue taking action, even when you don't feel like it, when you're tired, or when your results aren't immediately visible. Discipline is the backbone of long-term success because it isn't dependent on the highs and lows of motivation. It's built on consistency, structure, and the willpower to keep moving forward, no matter what. If motivation is the spark, discipline is the fire that keeps burning when the spark has faded. When we rely too heavily on motivation, we set ourselves up for failure. Motivation can be a great starting point. It can give us the momentum we need to begin a task, to make a big decision, or to pursue something new. But motivation alone is not enough to sustain us through the inevitable obstacles that arise along the way. Motivation is like the wind, powerful in short bursts, but unpredictable and inconsistent. Discipline, on the other hand, is like the engine. It keeps running even when the wind dies down. Think about it. You can wake up one morning feeling motivated and inspired, ready to conquer the world. You hit the gym, you work on your goals, and everything feels amazing. But by the next day, the excitement has worn off. The energy you had yesterday is gone, and suddenly the workout feels like a chore. The task you set out to accomplish seems impossible, and you find every excuse in the book to avoid doing what you know you should. Motivation has disappeared, and now you're stuck. This is where discipline makes all the difference. Discipline isn't concerned with how you feel. It's about doing what needs to be done, regardless of your mood or circumstances. One of the reasons motivation is so unreliable is because it's tied to emotion. It comes and goes based on how we're feeling, the external circumstances around us, and how much we're influenced by outside factors. We're motivated when things are going well, when we feel good about ourselves, or when we receive praise or recognition. But when things go wrong, when we face challenges or setbacks, motivation can disappear in an instant. It's easy to be motivated when everything is aligned in your favor. But life doesn't work that way. There will always be setbacks, challenges, and moments of doubt. Motivation can't be counted on to push you through those moments. Discipline, however, is not governed by emotions. Discipline doesn't care about how you feel on any given day. Discipline is about showing up, doing the work, and staying committed to your goals no matter what. It's about building habits and routines that keep you moving forward, even when the motivation isn't there to carry you. Discipline is the steady hand that guides you through the tough times. When motivation wanes, discipline is what keeps you anchored to your purpose, your vision, and your commitments. For example, think about someone who is trying to get fit. The first few weeks of working out might feel easy. The excitement of starting something new, the motivation to see results, and the enthusiasm of taking on a challenge all contribute to high energy and effort. But after some time, the novelty wears off. The muscle soreness sets in, the progress is slower than expected, and the initial excitement fades. That's when motivation often fades, and this is where discipline becomes crucial. If the person relies solely on motivation, they'll stop working out. But if they have discipline in place, they will continue to show up every day, following their routine, pushing through the discomfort, and making consistent progress, even when they don't feel like it. Discipline is about creating habits that align with your goals. It's about setting up a structure that makes it easier to do the right thing, even when you don't have the energy or the desire to do so. For example, if you want to write a book, you don't just wait until you feel motivated to write. You don't wait for the perfect moment or the ideal mood. You set aside time each day to write, whether you feel like it or not. You create a routine that supports your goal of finishing the book. Discipline is showing up at the same time every day, sitting down in front of your computer and writing, even if the words don't flow easily, even if you feel uninspired. Over time, those small, disciplined actions build momentum. And eventually, you'll look back and realize that your discipline has led to the completion of the book. The key to developing discipline is consistency. Motivation is about intensity. It's the emotional fuel that drives us to take big action in short bursts. But discipline is about consistency. It's about doing the work, even when it's hard, even when you don't want to, and even when the results aren't immediately obvious. Discipline is what turns an occasional effort into a daily routine. It's about creating rituals that reinforce your commitment to your goals. And over time, consistency becomes second nature. You stop relying on motivation and start relying on your routine. When you build disciplined habits, they become ingrained in your life. They no longer require a fight against procrastination or resistance. They become an automatic part of your day. A great example of how discipline works is in the realm of professional athletes. Think about the level of training and effort required to become a top athlete. Motivation alone won't get you to the professional level. Everyday athletes show up for grueling workouts, strict diets, and mental conditioning whether they feel motivated to do so or not. They train through injuries, through exhaustion, through setbacks, and through disappointment. They don't wait for motivation to hit them. They get to work because they know that discipline, not motivation, is the key to success. The same principle applies to anyone trying to achieve anything significant. Discipline also helps you build resilience. The road to success is rarely smooth. It's filled with obstacles, challenges, and failures. In these moments, motivation tends to wane. But when you have discipline, you develop the mental toughness to keep going, even when it feels like you've hit a wall. Discipline teaches you how to push through discomfort and uncertainty. It teaches you that failure is just a part of the process, not a reason to give up. When motivation fades, discipline is what keeps you from quitting. It's what keeps you putting in the work even when the results don't seem to be showing up. Another important aspect of discipline is delayed gratification. Motivation is often driven by the desire for immediate rewards. We take action when we see an immediate benefit, when we're excited about the short-term results. But discipline is about playing the long game. It's about making sacrifices in the short term to achieve bigger, more meaningful goals in the future. Discipline requires patience. It requires the ability to work towards something over time, even if the rewards aren't immediate. And the more you practice delayed gratification, the stronger your discipline becomes. Discipline also requires self-control. It's about saying no to distractions, no to temptations, and no to things that don't align with your long-term goals. This is one of the hardest parts of discipline. In today's world, we're constantly bombarded with distractions, social media, entertainment, instant gratification. These distractions are designed to pull you away from your focus, to steal your time and attention. Discipline is the ability to recognize those distractions and push them aside in favor of your goals. It's about resisting the urge to procrastinate, resisting the urge to take the easy route, and instead making the hard choice to stay focused on the task at hand. Discipline is not always easy, but it's always worth it. When you have discipline, you have control over your actions. You take responsibility for your choices, and you follow through on your commitments. Don't wait for motivation to show up. Build discipline. Make a commitment to yourself to keep showing up, to keep putting in the work, and to keep moving forward no matter how you feel. Because it's discipline, not motivation, that will carry you to the finish line. Failure is often viewed as something to be avoided, a negative outcome that signifies defeat or a lack of ability. It's something that people dread, something that makes us feel vulnerable, exposed, and less than. But what if we flip this narrative? What if we saw failure not as a setback, but as an essential part of growth, a stepping stone toward success? In truth, failure is not just an inevitable part of the journey, it is also one of the most powerful teachers we will ever encounter. When we learn to embrace failure rather than fear it, we unlock our potential for growth, resilience, and success. The first thing to understand is that failure is not an end. It's a part of the process. It's a natural, unavoidable occurrence in the pursuit of anything meaningful. Every person who has ever achieved anything significant has failed at some point, often multiple times. In fact, the more you fail, the closer you get to success. That's a hard pill to swallow, especially in a culture that tends to glorify success and demonize failure. But the truth is that every failure carries with it the potential for transformation. Every mistake, misstep, and disappointment contains a valuable lesson that, when learned, can propel you forward in ways you might not have imagined. Failure is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. It's a catalyst for personal growth, and it's through embracing it that you truly begin to develop. One of the most important things to recognize about failure is that it is not personal. We tend to take failure as a reflection of who we are, of our worth and abilities. When something doesn't go as planned, we often internalize that failure and start to believe that we are not good enough or capable enough. But this mindset is limiting. The truth is, failure is not an indictment of your character or your worth. It is simply feedback. It's information telling you what doesn't work so that you can try something different. It's a way for life to communicate that the path you're on isn't quite the right one, and that a new approach might be needed. When you see failure for what it truly is, a lesson, an opportunity for growth, you begin to separate your identity from your mistakes, and you allow yourself the freedom to fail and try again without judgment. Many people are afraid to fail because they fear the consequences: rejection, ridicule, loss of status or respect. But these fears are often exaggerated. Yes, failure can feel uncomfortable, but discomfort is a natural part of growth. If you want to grow, you must learn to embrace discomfort. The most successful people in the world didn't get there by avoiding failure. They got there by leaning into it, learning from it, and using it as fuel for improvement. Every failure is a lesson in resilience. It's an opportunity to develop mental toughness, to train your mind to see setbacks as temporary and not as reasons to give up. When you can shift your perspective and see failure not as a roadblock but as a stepping stone, you become unstoppable. Let's think about some of the world's most successful individuals. Thomas Edison, for example, famously failed over 1,000 times before he invented the light bulb. But he didn't see his repeated failures as defeats. He saw them as experiments, as steps toward discovering the solution. When asked about his failures, he famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 1,000 ways that won't work." This mindset is crucial for anyone striving for greatness. If Edison had allowed his failures to define him, if he had given up after his first or 100th failure, the world would have been a much darker place. Instead, he embraced failure as part of his journey towards success. The same principle applies to anyone who has achieved greatness. Whether it's in sports, business, art, or any other field, failure is an integral part of the process. Michael Jordan, often considered the greatest basketball player of all time, was cut from his high school basketball team. Yet he didn't let that failure stop him. He used it as motivation to work harder, to prove to himself and others that he was capable of more. "I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career," Jordan once said. "I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life. And that is why I succeed." These words embody the spirit of embracing failure as growth. Failure doesn't mean you're not good enough. It means you haven't found the right way yet. And that's perfectly okay. Each failure teaches you something valuable, something you need to learn in order to move forward. When we embrace failure, we stop seeing it as something to be avoided at all costs, and we start seeing it as a necessary part of our journey. The fear of failure often holds people back from taking risks, trying new things, or stepping outside their comfort zones. But the truth is, without taking risks, we stagnate. Without trying, we never grow. The very act of failing means that you're trying something new, that you're pushing yourself to evolve and stretch your capabilities. The key is not to avoid failure, but to learn from it. When you fail, don't let it knock you down. Instead, take a moment to reflect on what went wrong, what you can do better next time, and how you can adjust your approach moving forward. Failure, in fact, is one of the most effective ways to learn. When things go wrong, we are forced to examine our methods, our beliefs, and our approach. We become more self-aware. We gain clarity on what doesn't work. And that's just as important as knowing what does. Every time you fail, you become more knowledgeable, more experienced, and more capable. These are the building blocks of success. Imagine trying to learn how to ride a bike. At first, you might fall off repeatedly. Each time you fall, you're learning something new: how to balance, how to steer, how to pedal at the right speed. You might not realize it at the time, but each failure is moving you closer to the point where you can ride confidently without falling. The same principle applies to any skill or goal you pursue. The failures you encounter are merely the lessons you need to succeed in the long run. It's also essential to realize that failure is not final. Many people are afraid of failure because they view it as a permanent state. But failure is only a temporary condition. It's a setback, not a permanent roadblock. When we fail, we are not defined by that moment. We are defined by how we respond to it. You always have the power to get back up, reassess, adjust, and try again. This is what separates those who achieve their goals from those who don't. The successful person is the one who doesn't stay down when they fall. They get back up, learn from their mistakes, and keep moving forward. The key to growth is perseverance. It's about having the courage to fail, to pick yourself up, and to keep going despite the setbacks. Furthermore, failure helps us cultivate humility. When we succeed without effort, we can sometimes develop an inflated sense of our abilities. But failure forces us to confront our limitations. It teaches us that we don't know everything, that we don't have all the answers, and that there is always room for improvement. This kind of humility is essential for personal growth. It keeps us open to learning, to adapting, and to evolving. Without failure, we might become complacent, assuming that we have all the answers. Failure reminds us that there's always more to learn, and that no one achieves greatness without encountering challenges along the way. It's important to note that failing doesn't mean that your goal is impossible or that you're not cut out for success. In fact, failure is a sign that you are actively engaged in the process. If you never fail, you're probably not pushing yourself hard enough. If you never encounter challenges, you might not be striving for something truly worthwhile. Failure is a sign of effort. It's a sign that you are putting yourself out there, taking risks and trying to make something happen. The more you fail, the closer you get to succeeding. It's through failure that you refine your craft, adjust your strategies, and sharpen your skills. Each failure is an opportunity to grow stronger, wiser, and more resilient. In the end, failure isn't something to be feared. It's something to be embraced. It's a necessary part of the journey toward growth and success. When we learn to accept failure as part of the process, we free ourselves from the fear that holds us back and gain the courage to take risks, try new things, and step into the unknown. Failure is not a reflection of our abilities or worth, it's a reflection of our willingness to grow, to learn, and to push ourselves beyond our limits. So instead of avoiding failure, let's embrace it. Let's learn from it. Let's use it as the fuel that drives us forward toward greater success. Failure is not the opposite of success, it is an integral part of the path to success. Embrace it, and you'll discover that the greatest growth comes not from avoiding failure, but from learning how to rise from it every time. We live in a world where excuses have become a way of life. From the moment we wake up in the morning to the time we go to bed at night, we are faced with countless opportunities to make excuses. We have excuses for why we can't get to the gym, why we didn't meet a deadline, why we didn't call a friend, why we didn't take that important step toward our goals. Excuses are easy to make. They are comfortable, they are convenient, and they allow us to delay doing the things we know we need to do. But if we want to achieve meaningful results in life, we have to put excuses aside. We have to put excuses aside. We have to stop explaining why things didn't work out and start focusing on how we can make them work. The first step to living a life without excuses is taking full responsibility for where we are in life. This means accepting that our circumstances, our successes, and our failures are largely the result of the choices we've made. We often like to blame external factors, our environment, our upbringing, the economy, other people for where we find ourselves. But the truth is, the only person responsible for our lives is us. When we take responsibility, we stop making excuses because we understand that if we are the ones responsible for our outcomes, then we also have the power to change them. It's no longer about pointing fingers or placing blame. It's about recognizing that the power to change our circumstances lies within us. One of the most dangerous things about making excuses is that it keeps us stuck in a cycle of inaction. When we constantly justify why we haven't taken the necessary steps toward our goals, we effectively prevent ourselves from moving forward. Each excuse is like a mental block that stops us from taking the next step. The more excuses we make, the more we feed into a belief that we are powerless, that we are victims of our circumstances. We start to believe that things are out of our control, that there's nothing we can do to change our situation. But this is an illusion. The truth is that we are always in control of our actions, even if we can't control everything around us. When we choose to make excuses, we give up our power. And when we give up our power, we rob ourselves of the ability to achieve the results we truly desire. It's important to recognize that making excuses is a habit, a deeply ingrained one. From childhood, we are conditioned to find reasons for why things didn't go as planned. Whether it's a teacher excusing us from homework because of illness or a parent letting us off the hook for not cleaning our room, We are taught that excuses are a way of avoiding consequences. This mindset, if not challenged, follows us into adulthood. We make excuses in our careers, our relationships, and our personal lives. We justify why we haven't pursued our dreams, why we're not making progress, and why we're not doing the things we said we would. The longer we let excuses dictate our behavior, the harder it becomes to break free from them. But the key to success is simple: stop making excuses and start taking action. The moment you decide to take responsibility for your actions and stop blaming others, you open the door to a life of results. It's also important to realize that excuses are often rooted in fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of success. These are just a few of the many fears that can lead us to make excuses. When we are afraid of something, we find reasons to avoid it. We convince ourselves that we're not ready, that we need more time, that the circumstances aren't right. But these are all just excuses. Fear will always exist, but it's how we choose to respond to fear that makes the difference. Instead of letting fear control us, we need to embrace it. We need to step into the discomfort of the unknown and move forward despite our fears. When we make excuses because of fear, we give fear more power over us. But when we choose to act in the face of fear, we take that power back. We break free from the limitations we've placed on ourselves, and we take control of our destiny. Another common excuse we make is that we don't have enough time. Time is something that we all have the same amount of, and yet many people feel as though they simply don't have enough of it to achieve their goals. They claim they are too busy with work, family, or other commitments to focus on their personal growth or dreams. The truth is, time is a matter of priorities. If something is important to you, you will find the time for it. People often make time for the things they care about, whether it's watching TV, scrolling through social media, or spending time with friends. But when it comes to our goals, we often convince ourselves that we're too busy to make progress. The reality is that we all have 24 hours in a day, and it's up to us to decide how to use that time. If we want results, we have to be willing to prioritize the things that matter most. Instead of making excuses about time, we need to learn how to manage our time effectively and make time for the actions that will bring us closer to our goals. Another excuse we often hear is that we don't have the resources we need to succeed. Whether it's money, knowledge, or connections, many people believe that they can't move forward because they lack the necessary resources. But the truth is that resources are not always the limiting factor. More often than not, it's our mindset that holds us back. We assume that we need everything to be perfect before we can take action. We believe that we need a large investment of money to start a business, or that we need years of experience before we can pursue our dreams. But these are all excuses. The most successful people in the world didn't wait for the perfect conditions to take action. They started with what they had, learned along the way, and adapted as they went. When you stop waiting for the perfect moment and start making the most of what you already have, you will be amazed at how much you can achieve. Excuses also rob us of our confidence. When we constantly make excuses for ourselves, we reinforce a belief that we are incapable of achieving what we want. Every time we justify why we haven't taken action, we undermine our own belief in our abilities. But when we take action, even in the face of uncertainty, we build confidence. We prove to ourselves that we are capable of more than we think. Each small success, each step forward, adds to our belief in ourselves. Confidence doesn't come from waiting for the perfect conditions or from having all the answers. It comes from taking action, from proving to ourselves that we are capable of overcoming obstacles and achieving results. When you stop making excuses, you take control of your life and you begin to trust in your ability to make things happen. One of the most powerful ways to overcome excuses is by setting clear, achievable goals. When we don't have a clear vision of where we want to go, it's easy to get lost in excuses. We can't move forward because we don't know where we're headed. But when we set specific, measurable goals, we create a roadmap for our success. Goals give us something to focus on, something to work toward. When we have a clear destination in mind, the excuses start to fade away because we have a reason to keep moving forward. Goals give us direction, and with direction, there's no room for excuses. We stop getting sidetracked by distractions and start taking the steps necessary to reach our desired outcome. In addition, surrounding ourselves with people who hold us accountable can help us eliminate excuses. When we are surrounded by individuals who support our goals and encourage us to take action, it becomes harder to make excuses. Accountability partners keep us on track and remind us that excuses won't get us any closer to our goals. They challenge us to step up and take responsibility for our actions. When we make a commitment to others, we are more likely to follow through because we don't want to let them down. Having a support system in place can help us stay focused and eliminate the temptation to make excuses. Ultimately, it's not about having the perfect circumstances or waiting for the ideal moment to take action. It's about doing the work, putting in the effort, and refusing to let excuses stand in our way. Results don't come from talk or wishful thinking, they come from action. If we want to achieve something, we need to take consistent, deliberate action every day, regardless of the obstacles we face or the excuses we could make. The only way to get results is to stop making excuses and start doing the work. Excuses may provide temporary comfort, but results provide lasting fulfillment. The choice is ours. Do we choose comfort or do we choose progress? Do we make excuses or do we get results? The path to success is clear: no excuses, just results.